And we're live.
Okay, we are live. This is Senate Finance for Friday, March 22nd. We are going to finish up our work today on S bills. We have S 167 and S 301, which we're going over. We have an amendment for that. And the committee is eating lunch, if anyone is watching, because we just got off the floor. And this is the way we eat. So, if Beth says James, is Beth's gonna walk over. I invited the chair, but he is meeting with the new Secretary of Education as we speak. Said he would stop by if he had no questions. So that's what those.
Great, good afternoon, Beth St. James, Office of Legislative Counsel. We also have draft number 5.1 of S 167, which is the education piece report on S 167. Is there any, do you want me to walk through the entire bill, or is there any particular section that you are really only interested in?
We just got this bill, so we have no idea what's in it, so 10,000 foot,
10,000 foot, okay.
and mostly interested in money.
Money, okay, well, I think I think I know why this bill is in your committee, and it is at the very end.
Okay.
So the first, we'll just go high level. Section 1 of the bill on page 1 is an amendment to the amount of money that would trigger a school district to go out to public bid for a school construction contract. From current laws, 500,000, this bill would change it to 2 million. So if they are looking to either procure something or engage in a project that would cost 2 million, they would have to go out to bid.
Reason for that.
The 500,000 has been in statute since the 90s, I believe. And so I believe the point here is to bring it up more towards the subsection is entitled high cost construction contracts.
Okay.
And so $500,000
Not a huge.
perhaps.
Yep.
There's also another substantive change in this section. Current law requires a school district to select on page 2, line 14, to select to award to one of the 3 lowest bidders. This language would change it to allow a school district to select from among the 3 or fewer lowest bidders. I don't believe school districts are always getting 3 bids.
Yes, I would assume not in this. Just, yeah, building.
So that's it for section 1. Page 3, section 2 is an update to the post-secondary schools that are accredited to operate and therefore allowed to operate in Vermont. You can see starting on line 17, there are several schools that are struck, and on line 21, there's an update to the Vermont Law and Graduate School name. So the names that are struck are no longer operating here in Vermont, and Vermont Law School is now the Vermont Law and Graduate School.
Okay.
Page
Any questions from any committee members? Just raise your hand.
Page 4, section 3 is picking out the effective date of the hazardous operations plan requirement that went into effect in the school safety bill last year. The current effective date of that section is July 1, 2024, and so page 3 pushes that effective date out to July 1, 2025.
Okay.
Section 4 is requiring the Agency of Education to develop a request with the Vermont Holocaust Memorial that would go out to all supervisory unions to give back information on where and whether Holocaust education is taught in the supervisory union's curriculum.
That came out of a bill that Ginny and I put in about Holocaust education.
I remember saw that.
I'm satisfied
Satisfied.
with that. I mean, the step.
Then there's obviously a information collection portion and then a report back to you all with the information that they collect. And the Agency of Education on page 5 is also required to provide supervisory unions with Holocaust education resources that they develop in consultation with the Vermont Holocaust Memorial.
Okay, so they're gonna develop the curriculum?
No,
No.
no.
Yeah.
This section requires a report back, requires AOE to do what they need to do to get the data. and then report back the data to you all on what, where and when Holocaust education is appearing in statewide curriculum, and then any recommendations for any changes that need to be made.
Okay,
While you are considering any changes, when you're, digesting the report you get back, AOE is still required to provide supervisory unions with resources around Holocaust education. So this section 4 does not change any curriculum or anything. It's a report back for you all to consider whether or not changes need to be made.
okay.
Section 5 on page 5 is, I believe, why this bill is in your committee. The Flexible Pathways Initiative in Title 16 contains several different options that can be a part of a student's personalized learning plan, like CTE education, dual enrollment, early college. Virtual learning is also a component of the Flexible Pathways Initiative, but it does not have a standalone statute dedicated to what is virtual learning. So this section is doing that. It is adding a standalone section right under dual enrollment and early college, et cetera, in the Flexible Pathways subchapter. That basically just states what virtual learning is. It's an allowable part of a student's personalized learning plan. Let's have some parameters on what that means. And I believe the section that has landed this bill in your committee is on page 6, line 5, subdivision or subsection D, which states that a school district shall count a student enrolled in virtual learning in the school district's average daily membership if the student meets all of the eligibility criteria for participating in virtual learning to begin with.
And we have a verbal fiscal analysis. Didn't seem like we had to have somebody from joint fiscal who could get right out straight this week. Sit here to tell us that they thought this would have virtually no financial.
This language is, I don't think legally necessary because this is happening anyway. But this is a good reminder to school districts that if a student is participating in virtual learning, you have to count them in your ADM. Section 3 on page 6 is an update to the definition of virtual learning to go along with what we're codifying in section 5. And then section 7 at the very bottom of page 6, spilling over onto page 7, is an amendment to the home study program section in Title 16.
The one I've got a whole lot of emails about.
Perhaps. So I don't know if you all remember last year, there were amendments made to the home study program. So
That one didn't come here, so.
No, so for our compulsory attendance requirements in the state of Vermont, you have, a kiddo has to be enrolled from 6 to 16 in either a public school, an independent school, or a home study program. This statute, 166B, Title 16, 166B, is the law that governs the home study program. So if you are a student participating in a home study program, this is it. Last year, there were changes made to that law, and one of those changes was it removed the ability of the Secretary of Education to essentially challenge whether or not a home study program was doing what it was supposed to do under the statute. This section puts some of that language back in. So prior to last year, prior to the changes that were made last year, the secretary could ask for a hearing before a student enrolled in home study program. And the secretary could say, I don't think what you are about to engage in meets the statutory requirements. Or the secretary could, if a student was actively participating in a home study program, in March, decide, I have information that leads me to believe your program is not meeting the statutory requirements.
You've been seen down at the local coffee shop every morning until noon.
So, this section does not add back in that pre-enrollment hearing opportunity. This language, starting on page 7, subsection E, is essentially the same language that was repealed last year that allows the secretary to call for a hearing and ask for a order terminating a student's right to participate in the home study program for very specific reasons. The only changes between this section and what was repealed last year are any reference to the pre-enrollment hearing option. So there are due process requirements, so there would essentially be parties, right? There's the secretary is one party, and then the family is another party, and then there's an independent hearing officer. Who would have the hearing and then issue an order.
What is the hearing officer work for?
It's not that specific, it just states that, hearing shall be conducted by an impartial hearing officer appointed by the secretary from a list approved by the state board. So, probably a contract.
Yeah.
employee.
Before you can do a homeschool, you have to submit a curriculum or can you just, I'm gonna homeschool my kid and there's no, we don't know, how do we know that the kid isn't out playing in the field rather than being educated? I thought originally you had to submit a proposed plan of study and, what I thought from reports.
So current law requires that in order to enroll a student in a home study program, let's see, you have to, the parent have to attest that the academic progress of each child will be assessed at the end of the school year, and that the parent or guardian will maintain a record of those assessments, and then the law lists what are appropriate methods for assessment. And then there has to be an attestation that the child, there's other things like address and contact information. But the law also requires an attestation regarding that the child will be provided the equivalent of at least 175 days of instruction in the minimum course of study per year. And then there is some documentation required if there are disabilities involved. But that's it, it's just an attestation that those things will be provided.
Have we had any problem with someone turning up not able to read properly?
I would encourage you to talk to your colleagues in the Committee on Education. I believe this section of the bill came to be based on some concerns that were raised about a member of the public or anyone's ability to call concern to what is happening in a home study program. The amendment that made their way into the current law last year took away any challenge ability. And so this section brings back the secretary's ability to call for a hearing. To make sure, and again, the hearing is not just, I don't like what's happening. It's specific, so the home study program is failing to comply with the statutory requirements, or the home study program is failing to comply with the minimum course of study. So it's very narrow.
Okay.
Is it complaint driven or what?
It's, so the language reads, if the secretary has information that reasonably could be expected to justify an order terminating the home study program, so that information could come from anywhere, it's not specific.
That come from the home, isn't
I think the example that came to the Committee on Education this year was a concerned relative.
My grandchildren can't spell cat and they're 10 years old. Or
We were, when I came in discussing Holocaust teaching requirements, would that be a basis for rejecting or correcting or seeing that they were taught?
No, the only requirement for home study as far as curriculum goes is that they are being provided instruction in the minimum course of study, and the minimum course of study is statutory. And it is, I'm gonna read it to you because it's not very long. It is basic communication skills, including reading, writing, and use of numbers, citizenship, history, and government in Vermont and the United States, physical education and comprehensive health education, including the effects of tobacco, alcohol, and drugs, English, American, and other literature, the natural sciences, and the fine arts. The kind of broadening and expanding on what all of those topics means is really happening in the education quality standards, which is a public school requirement, not for home study. So what I just read is the minimum course of study.
That's it.
That's it.
Do they have, we have reading proficiency standards? Are these children counted and maybe they've raised them? So we don't know on a comparable level how well they're doing as compared to school taught children.
Yes, all the home study statute does not, it requires parents or guardians to attest that they're going to have an end of the year assessment for the child. And then maintain a record of that end of the year assessment. And then there are options for what that assessment should be. But it does not, one of those options is a standardized assessment administered by the local school district or a testing service. But that's just one option, and there's no requirement that a home study student participate in any of the required testing that's required in public schools.
So what's the assessment again?
So, in order to enroll in a home study program, a parent or guardian has to attest, I'm gonna read right from the statute, that the academic progress of each child enrolled in a home study program will be assessed at the end of each school year, and that the parent or guardian will maintain the record of such assessments. And then permitted means of assessments include a standardized assessment, which may be administered by the local school district or a testing service, a review of students' progress by a licensed teacher, a parent or guardian report and portfolio to include a summary of what the student learned during the school year and at least 4 examples of work, grades from an online academy or school, or evidence of passing the GED. Those are the 5 assessment options.
As former chair of the education committee, do there any concerns that you might point out? Yes.
I had other things we were doing that year, like mergers. No, but I have some concerns because homeschooling seems to be expanding. That we have, some obligation to make sure that the children are getting a better education than they get in the public school. At least as far as reading, writing, arithmetic. And so, is there any obligation to teach algebra, advanced algebra? No,
No, it is the use of numbers.
the use of numbers. Think of some ways that we might not want to encourage to use numbers. Okay, that we can express our concern to the ed community. But I think if people want to homeschool, we have an obligation to make sure that those children come out with the education they're going to need to succeed. And then, so okay, Got all my former teachers here.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that as a former chair of the education committee, I've never been comfortable with this. But having said that, I'm not sure that being enrolled in a regular public school is a guarantee of mastery either.
Yeah, okay. But our jurisdiction in this is.
Yeah, that's not.
Is any of this gonna add to the cost? And our joint fiscal office says probably not. Have we finished?
Yes, the effective date would be July 1, 2024.
Okay, yeah,
There was a list of colleges that were crossed out and they seemed to correspond to colleges that don't seem to exist anymore.
Correct.
And does, the Vermont, College of Fine Arts exist?
Yes, they do. Well, that was originally in the bill as introduced.
they have an
Access.
office here in Montpelier, but all their educational activities take place in New Mexico, Colorado, maybe, Arizona, it's nowhere near Vermont. The Vermont name, I have some concerns about that. We did a lot of work on not using the Vermont name.
Elliot Berg was,
Elliot, but yes,
where is he? What would he say about this?
I think Elliot would be upset about this. Just having your office here and none of your activities. But,
Would that be outside of our jurisdiction, floor amendment?
I think that would be a bigger. We'd have to get the Attorney General and talk about what the law has, but there were concerns about Vermont oatmeal showing up in the Christmas tree shop, which was made in China or somewhere. Using that Vermont brand, which apparently has value. The thing that set it off was a company that had a post office, an address in around St. Albans. And they were somewhat sleazy or crooked, and they were using the Vermont address as a way to,
So maple syrup?
yeah, it was maybe sell maple syrup that wasn't all maple syrup, but there were some financial irregularities, and that's what got the Attorney General to say, we need to have some control. Just because you're a post office box, you can't call yourself. The bad one was we couldn't let, Harringtons, they couldn't call their ham Vermont ham because the pigs weren't from here. And we had issues with Vermont butter and cheese because they couldn't get enough goat's milk in Vermont. And was it okay if they imported what they couldn't get in Vermont from Quebec? I think we solved all problems, but it was a lot.
Abbott Water
Okay,
manufacturing Springfield.
so. There you go.
Just a question, I'm sorry I came in late, so you may already have covered this, but on virtual learning. Can virtual learning be used in a homeschool environment?
This statute is specific to public schools. So this is for the flexible pathways.
Right.
The homeschool statute does not really talk about, method of instruction.
Okay,
So they could use,
so it could then, evidently.
There's nothing specific to method of instruction here, so theoretically, yes,
It's probably prohibited.
yes.
you could get someone to teach your child Chinese over the internet, I would assume.
Well, in this where it talks about virtual learning in this particular section 5 of the bill. Seem clear about what virtual learning is. What's in it and so on, but it seems to be limited to public schools, which is why it raised the question in my mind is it in any way, in effect, saying that that's the only way that virtual learning could be provided in a homeschool environment? If that's not what it says, that's uncomfortable.
No, I don't believe that's what it says. And I'll, just for your benefit, this section would be nestled in with all the other flexible pathways initiatives like dual enrollment, early college, et cetera. Virtual learning is already a component of the flexible pathways initiative, but it's the only one without its own standalone section to tell us what that means. So I think in the context, I don't think this prohibits, say, an independent school or a home study school from doing whatever they need to do for the provision of education.
But for Burton is using some virtual learning. Okay, really, our jurisdiction, is this gonna add any cost? The ed fund, our joint fiscal says probably not, most of it is being done anyway. It's just being formalized. So what is your pleasure on this bill?
I would move that we report that will favorably with, no amendment.
Okay. Senator Bray has moved that we report S-167 favorably. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no, all in that 7-0. Okay. Would like to. report. Senator McCormick,
Yeah,
would you report that?
that'll be a hard job, but
I know. Okay. Now, I wonder, do you think I want to come a few minutes together, or I don't dare give them 10-minute break? Or I'm gonna get them back. The next thing we have is, the ag bill, which we've been sitting on. Our thing was the VEDA sections, and those are, not changing the revenues of the state at all, they're just expanding it. There was a brouhaha about a grant in there, this, I guess, still has to go to a folks. Because there's a grant, you look everywhere for it, there is something about mosquito. There's some kind of mosquito abatement grants, I think you can get some spraying done if you're over on the lake. It changed something in there, but nothing. So once we vote this out today and get it upstairs, it will be on notice Monday, and the chair of the probes will stand up and ask that they not take possession of the bill, and that way the bill will be out. We have. Okay, basement. What is that one?
It's the draft.
Oh, that's the
amendment.
draft one, okay. Well, these are we've got two possible drafts. One nearly moves their deadline up a year, which is what the owner of Rygate are asking, if we have another year to get the plant up. There's been some concern that apparently they are not paying their people on time. They haven't come through with any proposal on their own. So one would just extend the deadline, which is what Rygate wants. The other one, I have not seen, I know, Representative Feliz Rubio has been working on drafting up something. He presented one to us. I think this is fairly similar. And basically, if the thread is, if they don't get their act together, they will, their PPA will be put in abeyance until they do get their act together, which was the one thing they really didn't want. And Ellen is coming in, so you're correct.
As this is, I fully support the Rite plan going forward, especially if, they double the purchase of wood, supports foresters, loggers, et cetera. However, the failure to pay timely and the failure to bring timely language to us to make a modest request, to me, suggests that, we should let this go by without this provision. The House will have opportunity to act. If we ever felt as though that didn't happen, there is 305 that we could back this, which is a PUC bill, and we could
Have they seen on
attach at time. So I feel like there's other opportunities, personally, other opportunities downstream, and not including the provision now, I think will focus people's attention on trying to find an acceptable compromise.
Well, either that, or if we put the provision in now, which says if they don't come up with a solution, that something bad will happen, like until they pay people on time, their PPA will be put in advance. But we probably
Yeah.
should
So
have Ellen tell us what is in the amendment. And I know one of them is just to extend, right? Okay,
Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel. So today I have prepared two amendments because I didn't know where you were going. So draft 1.1 extends all of the remaining dates for Reigate by 1 year. Draft 2.1 incorporates the provisions that Representative Rubio was requesting. So I think that is language you should actually walk through. So
Was it, the draft pointed out in.
Oh.
I had the same problem. If you refresh the page, I think we're out now.
Oh.
If you go
Because
to,
I, yeah, I
Everybody get
refreshed a couple
copies?
times, I didn't get.
you
I
should
printed
have.
a paper for them. It is on the page. It works for me. It said both didn't work for him.
it is now working, you reloaded it, but if you
I've
click
got
refresh.
paper, I can give my paper copy and.
Fresh.
The
If
paper
she
copy you
lets
just
me
handed
get
me
on
is
the
up
internet.
there.
It's working.
Yeah, there's two drafts, so you have both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's working now.
so you're doing first draft first?
So I'm gonna do two, well, so draft 1.1, all it does is change the date 1 year. For the remaining dates, so it extends each of the remaining dates by 1 year. Do you wanna look at that one, or do you wanna look?
No, it's, is this an additional year as opposed to?
They have
Because
to,
otherwise that would make them in violation already, it would end PPA.
I,
So yes,
that out.
sorry, so yes, for example, it would extend the date by which they have to certify that the components have been completed from October 1, 2024 to October 1, 2025.
At the current payment amount of money they're receiving, which is twice what you pay for base power.
the deal we gave them last year, 2 years ago, it was scheduled. They had to have a proposal. And I believe by this October, they had to have a building actually under construction and when they first came to us, they said, we've got this guy who's got experience, he's building, but it's built, I think they said half in France, half in Sweden. And it's built in components and shipped here, and they won't have it up. And so give us a year extension and you're gonna get a wood pellet plant and you're gonna be more efficient. They'll make money for the wood pellet plant, because I'm sure they're selling heat, and that will allow them to work at a lower rate.
Should they choose to do so?
Yes, well, the PUC will look at their financials and tell them, they don't choose what they get paid, we do. So if they don't, the PUC will look at the whole thing and set a new rate. That's been there since the beginning. And when they came in, it sounded like a lot better than shrimp farming, which was the last proposal. But then we got word 2 weeks ago that there seemed to be a problem with getting people paid on time. The industry standard is 7 days, we were told, and people were not getting paid anywhere near that. And so the question was, do we wanna give them a little nudge saying, if you're getting this raised rate, we expect, your predecessor always managed to pay their people online, and we expect, on time, and we expect that you will. So that's where we left it. I asked Reigate's representatives to bring us a proposal, what's going on. We haven't gotten anything from them. They told me they couldn't possibly have anything ready. They asked me if I would do 10 days after the contract price. Or no, I think it was 20 days after the contract. And I said, well, does the contract say 3 days or does it say 20 days to start with? They have come in with nothing. And if they want this, I think it's reasonable for us to ask them to pay, or the whole thing will fall apart
So how much time do we have to make a decision on this?
today.
And then we don't find some other place to tack it on.
We don't get many ag bills. We didn't get the PUC bill. It will go to the House and the House can tack it on. We've been holding up this bill in hope that we would get something to put on it. I don't think anyone wants to just kill Rygate at this point, since they seem to be going, this, whatever we put on can be taken off in the house. My feeling is that if we just extend it, they're gonna say, oh, well, you know, the House Act will just extend it too, because they don't wanna shut Rygate and all the foresters
We've
down.
been extending it for decades,
Yes,
more than a decade.
maybe 7 years. Yeah, so my thought would be if we put something painful, we probably should let Ellen go through what this says on there, then they might have an incentive to speak. Because the bill now says something really bad. When the bill came to us, it just extended it moved all the dates up a year. So,
Madam Chair,
yes,
this, the record, the first time there was an extension. It was in the appropriations bill and no one knew it except for whoever put it in the appropriations bill
I have.
and the plan. And what we've learned more recently is that the purchase has been by Vermont electric users
Mhm.
for product that is made for, was 41% of Vermont forestry
They're up to 50.
workers and another 59% from Maine
Yes.
and Connecticut and
I think they got 2 laws
Massachusetts.
from Connecticut.
that was what, that's what the,
But-
Ms. Morris told us.
They told me they were up to 50% in the hall. That's not documented. Senator Bray,
Thank you, I made that, floated that idea out, but haven't heard the, proposal, so I'd love to go through the,
that's
and then,
That's what I would like to do, and then we can decide on strategy. Does anyone want to just shut Rygate down? I don't think so. So the question is, how do we keep it alive? So Ellen, let's go over the second proposal.
I would shut it down if there are no changes. And what keeps happening is we're promised that there'll be changes. And that the information we have changes to find out, well, it wasn't as large a benefit for Vermont foresters as it previously presented. I don't want to shut it down, but there's no, we never have something that a finish line that gets crossed.
So we can either cross it today, shut it down, or they'll be shut down by October. We will, last year we were told that would put 34, 35 small logging outfits out of business. They are on the Connecticut River. It's kind of financially strange to tell them they can't take New Hampshire wood.
They can take it. But if the excuse is, if one of the rationales for not shutting it down is to keep Vermont loggers and Vermont products and landowners, from acquiring the money for selling their product,
Right,
it's 41% of the stuff goes to Vermont
but that's
landowners.
still 41% that would be out of business if we shut it down.
But
There is a thing
we're
about
not
cutting
paying-
off your nose to spite your face.
And we're also, why are we supporting businesses in Massachusetts and Connecticut?
They said very little, and why do we hate businesses in Massachusetts and Connecticut?
What?
I'm from Massachusetts.
So I don't think we're ready to make an
I
affirmative
don't
decision to shut down
either.
Rite Aid today. So
You're not, that may be Senator McDonald, and can we hear?
It's,
Because this has been going on for 7 years in here, Senator, at least.
well,
plus
maybe
the.
10 years before that for a while.
Well, yes. So Ellen, go through the longer proposal.
Sure, so, already there is a co-location and efficiency requirement, in subsection K of 8009. So you have established that in order to, maintain the current rate and then go through a new rate determination, they have to have a co-location requirement that increases the efficiency of the plant at least 50% relative to a 12-month period related to July 1, 2022. So the first step they already completed, which is a signed contract providing for the construction of such a facility. And now the next step is in this subdivision 3, which is on page 1. So it's on or before October 1, 2025. The plant the owner of the plant shall submit to the PUC and the department a certification that the main components of the facility used to meet the efficiency requirement of subdivision 1 have been completed at the plant, and a certification that the plant shall pay its suppliers within 7 days, and has hired an ombudsman to verify that timely payments to suppliers are being made. In addition, the ombudsman shall ensure that supplier payments are made on time, refer any late payments to the Office of the Attorney General for potential consumer protection law violations, produce a quarterly report to the General Assembly on the timely nature of payments and any violations until the efficiency project is complete. Onto page 2, oversee the acquisition and construction of all components of the project, with the authority to review and retain copies of all permits and applications for permits, invoices, and receipts related to the project, and have authority to make unlimited, unscheduled inspections of the project worksite. Their assessment of the efficiency project's progress and their analysis as to whether the project will be completed by October 1, 2025 shall be included in the quarterly reports. So this was the proposal from Representative Farley's Rubio. It does include the payment within 7 days. And hiring an ombudsman. I don't know if that word ombudsman is the right word, but it is
They call
someone.
in the health. We always do an but
It could be like an auditor or like, I don't know.
Right.
yeah.
There's also, on projects, there's a construction manager, and there's a term for person, like a town, for a big project will hire someone sometimes to represent the town's interests on like a daily basis.
What do we call, that's what we want.
That's it, that's how that term gonna work.
It's a term of art and.
Clerk of the works, yeah.
Clerk of the works.
Clerk of the works. That's a fun phrase. Sure.
That's
The industry knows what it means.
Yeah, I don't know, right.
Okay,
This one needs a guard.
okay, we've got one more.
And then there is one other provision in here, but I don't know if there's further questions on this part. Okay, so then it does move the other associated dates. So it pushes every date out 1 additional year. Except that it does still leave the ending of the rate at 2032. So it's pushing out all these deadlines, but it is still leaving the last, the end of the so-called PPA at 2032.
They don't have to go back to the PUC before that?
Well, they do. There's multiple other steps in here. I don't know if you want me to go through, but there are multiple other steps that they have to keep up with. They have to actually construct the efficiency project that meets 50%. The department is then going to review the 50% efficiency to verify that they have. And if the PUC is to do a new rate, if they have met those steps by November 1, 2026.
Okay.
And then so that new rate would then be in effect for 6 years. And so this is actually moving that date back to November 1, 2027. And so that would give them 5 years at that new rate.
Okay,
But it is not extending the final end date an additional year, just the length of the additional what was a 10-year.
Yeah, I don't remember where the 32 came from.
Because the last full review was in 2022.
Two,
Yeah,
okay.
so you gave them 10 years then and.
Okay,
From people eligible.
22 was the
Yes.
number that for the, what was in the appropriations bill that no one knew about.
1842.
So the prior, it was constructed in 90, I believe, so it doesn't go back that far. But the other provision in this bill besides moving the other dates is at the bottom of page 3, and so this was another proposal that I think Representative Farley's review talks to you about. It's slightly different. This is like a pause provision. So at the bottom of page 3, subsection 9,
you're voting out.
if at any time.
It sounded like it's off island or something.
If at any time the plan does not comply with the requirements of this subsection, and the commission decides not to conduct the rate determination provided in subsection D, and the obligation under this section ceases, so if at some point they violate this and the PUC says, stop, it's over, the plan owner may apply to the commission to reestablish the obligation under this section. On to page 4, the commission shall approve the application if the plant owner demonstrates that the plant's overall efficiency has increased to 50% relative to the 12-month period preceding July 1, 2022. And that the plant has an operational facility at the plant that utilizes the excess thermal heat generated at the plant for a beneficial purpose. The commission shall then conduct the rate determination, and the obligation under this subsection shall begin and last for 10 years following that rate determination.
Okay, I just need to place this in the sequence. So if at any time they don't meet the requirements, and the one we've got is you pay your people. And I might put 10 days in there, but we'll leave that. So if they don't pay their people, then like I said, the commissioner decides not, and the commission decides not to conduct a rate determination. This happens. Plant owner may apply. What's gonna happen here if they don't pay their people?
And if at some point the PUC or from the department's recommendation said that they are in violation of the statute and they are no longer eligible to receive the rate, or to get a new rate, because depending on what step they're in, the obligation ceases and they don't get that rate from the utilities anymore, and they just have to go to the market. If at some point in the future, the owner of the plant completes the steps that would qualify, so the 50% overall efficiency increase
Right.
with the excess thermal generation project, they can then go to the PUC and say, look, now we have completed the steps. Oh, and if you add the timely payments, we now have met the requirements of the statute. Can we apply now to once
Okay, so
again
this doesn't-
rejoin the statute?
This just doesn't suspend your PPA for the violation, the duration of you're not paying your people. Once you start paying them, this is even harder. You don't pay them on time, then everything goes away. You're back at market rate until you get everything certified that it's big and tall. Then you go in for another hearing, right?
Yes.
I guarantee the old EPA.
So I am thinking of these two these are two components that I think you could separate them if you don't want both. But because this is like, the first part is additional requirements of the ombudsman and required timely payments. And then this is also sort of a pause or get back into the system provision if they get knocked out. Because currently, if they don't meet the requirements of the statute, they're out, they're done. They have to probably come back to the legislature to amend the statute. So this is providing, if they get knocked out, if they violate the statute, this is a way to get back into it. So I think if you don't want to do both of these things, you can separate them and not do both. Or you could do both, but these are the things that Representative Farley's review was interested in.
I think that's what, everything was fine until they weren't paying their people on time, and I think that's what got our attention. I don't know that I want to penalize them to the point where they don't build the pellet plant because that has economic incentives for us and for the loggers. And we'll use white pine. So, but this. So I guess the question, well, if we send this out. It will, I hope, get their attention and they'll come to the table, but
There's option 3, which I believe Senator Bray said, we do nothing, and then the House maybe does something. Do you think that's the better option to motivate them to come to the table and get involved?
We do something, they have to come to the table.
yeah, I don't think they're gonna pay those workers.
If we don't extend it, they have to come too, yeah?
No, if we don't extend it, then they're going to go under. Or they won't have. Okay,
So what's our goal, Madam Chair? What's the end we're trying to get to?
my goal, I think, since this is the best proposal we've had, is to get them to come to the table. I think it's time to give a little hit up the side of the head to get them to,
Madam Chair,
Pay
something
attention.
that I would say would be chastised for correctly.
But you better to say it, so, you know.
I'm gonna take Senator Brock and then Senator.
Just going back, thinking about this clerk of the works thing, the clerk of the works is typically someone who is not hired by the person who's doing the project. The clerk of the works is hired by the client
Right.
or someone else, and so I don't think it is quite the right term unless it's candidate. I'm inclined to say independent auditor.
We can ask Harold what to do it.
Because that way, you're hiring someone who, because you're only asking to talk about money here. The auditors deal with money
Yeah,
and they're independent by nature and, but by definition, they're covered under Vermont law, so you know what one is. As opposed to, who he's allowed to hire his brother-in-law as the clerk of the works, who knows if you're getting anything that's accurate.
well, I think that's the one flaw in this bill is we don't have any money, so we want them to hire their oversight site person, which is an immediate conflict of
Yeah,
interest.
and by hiring an independent auditor, that we know what that is.
And we don't have the money to hire it. Oh, he did hire him,
Yeah, and I would use the word hire, I would use the word retain.
retained.
Good
We could try that.
My brother.
And then how much work is this going to be? Is this something our auditor's office could do? We can put it in and they get another chance.
The state auditor conceivably could do it if they're willing to do it.
Well, that's what I say, if we put the state auditor in there, they'll definitely come talk to the House.
Mhm.
We've got to get this bill out today.
You can put the state auditor in.
And let them work out something like that. Because an ombudsman is supposed to be somebody that's helping somebody that's underprivileged or can't help themselves, and I'm not.
You just don't know, there's no standard by which you're measuring them here, and if they're the ones who are doing hiring, I would immediately distrust it.
Thank you, Frank.
So, order preference, I think I would think the less is more, of course, it's just a simple, strong signal, not to add the language and say, if you want that extension, you should do it in the House and work out something that addresses the timely payment issue. Representative Lee Kruger in the House. And
Yes, but not on the Ag Committee.
right, but I'm guessing would bird dog it rather well over there. If we're gonna do something, well, Senator Brock's amendments like retaining an independent auditor. And I would also in terms of, it says pay its suppliers within 7 days, that's something in some crisp, right line, might be 7 days of invoicing. And
Yes, within,
but something
if we're not,
you can see and measure, like the
Yeah.
award of the invoice with the date on it.
well, they say there are contracts and they want it within 10 days. The contract says you will get paid within 3 days, 5 days, 20 days. You could say within 3 days of the contract date.
And then I would be tempted to remove that final section. I understand the idea, but,
Well, what happens if they just say, forget it? We're gonna pay our people what we think we can afford to pay our people. And we're building a plant and you have, you know, then we won't be paying these people. I think they need to get the message that not paying your people. I mean, I can't get their financials. I hate the thought that the money is going to corporate headquarters and not paying Vermont workers.
Won't be the first time.
Well, no. But
I don't know their business, but because they're paid at least for their power by utilities, utilities are generally reliable, timely payers.
And they pay twice as much as a per kilowatt hour.
they're getting 5 or 7 cents a kilowatt hour. More, and that means the ratepayers are paying that more. Okay, so Senator Bray, you just want to send it on and let it deal with it in the House, Keisha?
I mean, I would tend to agree because I just don't like Friday afternoon decisions that are highly consequential. Right, I keep using our time frame, but I think some of our poorest decisions, at least I'll speak for myself, have been made when we don't have enough time to fully consider things, and I think there's more people from the kingdom directly in spaces there who can keep working this out. I also I think it sounds like the committee's heard from Rygate. Statement besides Representative Farley's review.
Oh, we've heard from their representatives, we've heard from the loggers. I do have a note from our logger. Sam Lincoln, who approved of the proposal.
Okay,
I'll get that.
He's my logger, but
Yeah,
I mean, I could go either way, but I don't like to make consequential decisions on Friday afternoons.
Senator McCormick.
I think I'd like to get out of this as quickly as we can, but I don't know how quick that is. You know, we've got,
If we do nothing, they will die, their price, which they say they need to survive,
Yeah.
will die October 1st. And we will have loggers, some in Vermont, some elsewhere. Then you can see those trees from the Rygate plant. So we do nothing. They want an extension. We've given them terms of we've given them terms they had to meet to stay alive past October 1st.
yeah, no, I understand that.
Okay.
When I said I'd like to get out of this as quickly as possible, that's where my analysis starts. Right, then working along with it. You don't want to mix metaphors, you don't want to jump off.
Yeah.
This is an ongoing entity, it's an ongoing operation.
Unless we kill.
Yeah, so,
Do you want to send something like this amendment that says, unless you pay your people on time, we're gonna suspend your power agreement, which means you'll get the market rate that everybody else is getting. I mean, we are heavily subsidizing.
Yeah.
This plant and have been, which means the ratepayers are paying them. And I think the proposal is to give them 1 more year because we're gonna get a whole lot more value out of a wood pellet plant if it does materialize. Than we are out of a shrimp farmers, whatever they were putting up there last year. So I hear it ant farm. You probably better soil for that.
how do we do that, Madam Chair?
So I'm just trying to figure out, we could send this to the House and hope they do something. Or we can send it, because if we approve the extension now, then I think the folks at Rygate who have not brought a proposal to us, who have just not chosen to engage, if they think we're just passive, then they'll just sit back and hope that the House Ag, which really isn't involved in this, will just pass it. I think if we send out a heavy message that they have motivation to come in and negotiate with the House
Either that or to take that as a signal and walk away.
and walk away. But do we want subsidize them to not pay their workers?
So we give an extension till first February of next year or what?
They only want until the first of October next year. So why would we give them?
Well, that's short, so shorter
Oh,
time,
the
so
short,
6 months, 6 month extension instead of a 1 year,
That's
or that's,
October.
or that's like 5 months, so.
yeah,
Some other month.
so, I mean, the problem with that is that's where you can't build easily in Vermont. Okay, we can,
I thought I was making a longer extension
yeah,
than what was they were faced with
okay,
suggested.
thank you, Brock. You're,
Well, I guess the one question I have is, as you're talking about suppliers, and it's been used interchangeably by not paying their employees.
Right.
And those aren't necessarily the same thing.
no, these are the people that supply.
Supply them with the wood.
And apparently they have contracts
Yeah.
and they are not being paid on the contract date.
Well, yeah, but where did we get the 7 days from?
The 7 days.
That was
Yeah.
the Representative Rubio's.
That
Well,
they
the
have-
question is,
Oh.
if they have contracts.
Yeah.
They should be paid in accordance with the contract.
Right.
Some contract, I don't know what the contract says, 7 days, 2 days, or 30 days.
Sure. And then I think you also heard testimony that from the loggers, that industry standard is within 7 days of delivery. So,
But again, if they have contracts, we
Yes.
don't know what the contract
So
says.
we could say within 7 days of the contract.
Well, 7 days of what's required in the contract, or?
Yeah. If there's a contract, it's 7 days upon delivery or 7 day if you don't have a contract. Or you just, they'll have to have a contract.
Why don't we just simply say, we say that basically the ombudsman auditor, where we should be checking to ensure that payments have been made in accordance with the contracts.
Okay. That works.
So I was gonna say, so if they have a contract, just honor the terms.
On the terms of contract is what's being verified.
All right, Senator Chitney.
I go with the two people that have the most experience and longevity with this, so really yielding to Senator Bray and Senator McDonald as well as yourself. This is a new topic to me.
But we don't agree.
Yeah.
So,
Senator Bray was saying,
We haven't come up with what we agreed to.
The new language.
well, we extend and just send it off to the House. And if the House extends it, then we have no clout to making sure that the suppliers get paid when they're supposed to get paid.
That's true. So that's our language and not Representative Farley's Rubio's.
Carlos Rubio sent this to us because he was working on it and supposedly working on it with Rygate. Rygate has chosen not to participate
Okay.
in this. And so we can just extend it a year, send it on, and let the representative deal with his ag committee, because this is going on the ag bill.
But you don't think they're as inclined to require payments be made in effect?
I don't know what they are, but I know it's going to the ag department.
Okay.
Of the ag committee, which is not in on all of this, so I don't know what they'll do.
From the less is more school, I'm still interested in sending without anything. Letting the House.
Without any extension.
without anything else.
Without any extension, which will ensure that the Team Rygate shows up to talk to the House. They'll be highly motivated. The House can take a whack at it with more time. They'll eventually, the bill has to come back to us, right? Because they're.
I'm not guaranteeing anything,
What makes Rygate motivated to talk to them?
because they don't have their.
Because there's no extension.
We chose not to extend it.
No
That will
action.
get there.
Okay.
So if they amend, which I would think they will, then the bills return to the Senate we can see what the solution was.
And we can concur.
If they
further
left
amendment.
out timely payment,
Yeah.
which would be to our amazement, we could add it,
Okay.
concur with
Mhm.
further proposal, ship it back.
Okay,
Or have a conference.
Or have-
Like that.
I would want a mass protest if it does not get sent back to us. Because we're sticking it on an agriculture bill, and if it comes back on an agriculture bill, I don't know what the secretary will, I'm fighting out.
There may be other vehicles in the house also.
Or
Yeah,
the
right.
Senate,
Or
Or
the
the-
Senate.
or in this.
The only some vehicle.
Okay, so
You
I
remember
mean,
energy.
hanging on, we will send back. Why don't, we need Ellen to draft this. We will send them and just,
There's nothing actually. If your decision is no action, I don't have to do anything. Because there is, this language doesn't exist in any bills yet.
okay, so we just do nothing
We're good at that.
and. I know. I'm trying.
Less is more is fine by me.
Okay, the vibes are going out into the atmosphere. Right now, the proposal is that we do nothing and leave it to the House.
To amend which bill, because they're in the.
Well, we aren't amending anything. There is no bill that will extend. That was the problem. They came in with this proposal, we're gonna build a wood chip plant, but we're gonna need another year to do it. That was after we were already here, there is no bill. So if we do nothing, their proposal is floating and then could try us again, or they'd probably go to the House.
Right, and off the top of my head, germane bills might be the miscellaneous PUC bill in the house. Or
Okay.
the RES has a biomass section.
Exactly, so there's like two other
Okay.
vehicles around
Moving train.
that are exactly germane, that exactly come back to the committee, you know, like.
It'll come
you see
here.
it.
Okay,
But then ours, res would come here.
Miscellaneous finance bill.
Go to natural.
Right.
We miscellaneous finance bill too, or we go that ETD
it's a
thing.
miscellaneous tax, so it, if nobody challenges germaneness, we're germane, so we've got,
We don't have a big role left.
okay. I want to send a powerful message to them, but I have been overruled. So the decision is to do nothing.
I think that's a powerful message, right? I didn't realize that means
You
they
don't
pretty much
think
have to show up.
that, if you do something next week, week after.
If we find a bill to put it on. Okay.
We're on the House bill.
Okay, we will let it go to the House then. Ellen is happy, she didn't have to draft anything.
It is Friday. It's
I
all
know,
stuff.
and hopefully after weeks of craziness, both Lynch Council and Joint Fiscal will get at least a weekend, 3 days. Non-harassment.
So you know, I don't want it to sound in any way glib that I said
Right.
couldn't do nothing. It's really do something.
Yeah.
And it's a very clear message that's says, if you value, if you want that contract extension, work on it. And
Yeah.
it's
You-
rather.
It's their
compelling
job to
when we
bring
Get
us,
it here.
they are asking, and it is their job to bring us a proposal. And it was greased, it was going until the word that employees were not.
I also, when I said that if, I didn't know that we had 305 and we had to pass.
Well, those are in the House, right?
305 we shipped.
Yeah.
Or,
R
yeah,
and RES
and RES
is
is coming.
passed, so it's just
To you, not, will that come to us?
it did go through Ways and Means. in the
Okay,
House,
then it will come
so-
to us.
It will come there, we'll
Okay.
work on it and send it down here, I'm sure.
Okay,
It'll be a double header.
okay, and that will give the Rygate people time to think about this.
Right.
Because we aren't voting an extension at this point. McDonald?
Actually, we've been talking for our guests from the House who came in and testified and tried to work on this. We want renewable power and market rates, which might be possible if Frygate can install a pellet dryer. And we're asking, how do we make it possible at this time to let them do that without falling back into this constant extensions for whatever happens to be the reason of the year. So when we say doing nothing, we think it's achieve, find a pathway to this goal.
Inaction has meaning.
Okay, we still have a bill we need to vote on. Senator Bray,
If I may, that, the underlying bill is the ag bill, correct?
yes, 301.
Was 301. So then, I don't believe we made other changes to any of those
We did.
provisions, so then I would make Senator Shinton, move that we vote, report favorably 301 without amendment, amendment.
Senator Bray has made the motion that we report at 301 the miscellaneous ag bill favorably as presented. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And
It should drag all day.
no, we did not mention Graham. Who would like to report that? I really need to see.
Sure. I used to be on that.
Okay, I mean, you're carrying the load here.
Well, it's not like,
No, this is just, we looked at the VEDA extensions, they sounded reasonable. No changes. Okay,
I could maybe kindly remember to use Senator McCormick's favorite phrase, there's no impact on the state's fisc.
Thank you for noticing.
okay, you can all go home
I love
Tuesday.